as mentioned, I'm Amanda. I'm from Child Revive First Aid. I've got about over 10 years experience working in the ambulance service here in Victoria, and I still work on road. So our first aid courses that we run for parents and grandparents alike are specifically targeted to cover those childhood emergencies from the newborn up to around the ages of 8 years of age. So I have a collection of not only paramedic trainers but also paediatric emergency nurse trainers as well who deliver our courses. We run the courses as private sessions for the groups of 6 or more, or we run them at the mother care stores around town, and all the details can be found on our website. Today at the end of the session I'll give you a magnet. If I run out, we've got plenty more on our stand, which is literally just around the corner here on J16. So grab one of those as we work through. So today I'm taking a snippet of information from one of our courses, and that is on how to care for your child if they are choking. Once parents reach about that 4 to 6 months of age with their baby, it becomes one of the biggest concerns for parents, because we know that children between the ages of 0 and 4 are at the highest risk of choking episodes, and you as the parent or the grandparent are the best person to deal with it, because unfortunately in the ambulance service it takes us on average around about 10 minutes to respond to an emergency like a choking episode, and for your child they can deteriorate quite significantly in that 10-minute time frame. So what I need you guys to do, that if you encounter a child that is choking, is not stand there and freeze and start screaming at whoever can hear you, but instead take action and help your child, because it can be a life-threatening emergency. So I'm here today to talk about that and show you what I want you to do. Now, for many parents, a choking child can present in one of two different ways. What I want you to focus on is whether your child is showing an effective cough. If they are coughing effectively, it means they are moving air through their airway and their body is doing what it's designed to do. So the child should on their own clear their own airway with that effective cough. So there's no real need for parents here to take a lot of action and start throwing their child upside down and slapping them here, because their body is doing what it's designed to do. The only thing I would add to that is ensure that your child is sitting in an upright position. So we want them upright, or they can be over your shoulder. So in the high chair is ideal in that upright position, or over your shoulder. Alternatively, you could just simply roll them over, and that will just help them clear out that whatever's obstructing their airway with that effective cough, and it should work really, really well. So please don't rush in at this point in time. Show your child that they are in a cared for environment, which means you stay calm, reassure your child, and just sit them upright and just speak in nice, soothing tones to them. If you frighten them, what they can do is breathe in, and that obstruction travels down further and now becomes a full obstruction, which is not what you want, and it's certainly not what I want when I get to your home either. But the good news is, by the time I get there usually, I'm faced with a very happy pink child and a very frazzled parent who's usually gone through an ordeal that they don't want to repeat anytime soon. So the reassurance is that most of the time these techniques do work really effectively. I'll give you an example. A few months ago I was doing a course with a parents group, and the mum was feeding her baby, and the baby's pulled away. It was all about 8 weeks of age, pulled off because it obviously had too much milk in its mouth, and it started to obviously head down into the airway tube. So the baby's pulled off the breast to start coughing this milk up, so it could either vomit it out or swallow it down. But in this position, the baby wasn't having a good time of it and wasn't being effective in clearing its own airway. And by the time I looked over and went, oh, that child's been coughing for a bit, I look over and the baby's already started to turn blue around the lips. Okay, which is telling you it's not doing what it should be doing. And I said to Mum, just pop him up over your shoulder in that gravity-dependent position, slightly forward, and from that he was back to normal within seconds. He's moved the milk, he swallowed it down, and his skin colour returned to normal instantaneously. So there is a lot to be said about assisting your child into those positions. So that's the good news story. That's a partial obstruction, which I hope all of you, that's the worst it gets. But unfortunately for some few parents, they will have to deal with a full obstruction, and that is demonstrated by your child not showing any effective cough. So they'll be trying to cough it out, but they'll be making that high-pitched sound or no sound at all. So similar to a sound, okay? They're trying to move the air, but they can't because there's a full obstruction. So in terms of an emergency, this is a life-threatening emergency because you cannot survive without a clear airway. So in terms of deterioration, it will occur within minutes, certainly not hours, as we see of many other illnesses and injuries when they affect children, how long they take to progress. So what I need you to do is take action. The first thing you need to do is put your baby in a position where their head is lower than their bottom, or alternatively, you can just, if they're a newborn baby and it's mainly just fluid, you can just roll them over to the side and put them under your arm like that, and that enables the same positioning. So instantaneously, sometimes, especially if it's just a fluid, like mucus on day 1 of birth, okay, there are children that still choke on day 1 of birth when they can't swallow down all that mucus from delivery, or it's 3 weeks later when you've got lots of breast milk and they can't swallow that down either. A simple manoeuvre like that will just drain out their airway instantaneously and they'll be back to normal, breathing well on their own within seconds. So that's a good one. The problem is when they've got a foreign object in their airway, this simply won't necessarily fall out when you just rotate them over. So what you'll need to do here is provide them with some force to simulate the cough reflex. And that comes about by creating a pressure change, and that is as a result of you doing some very unkind back slaps to your child and perhaps some chest thrusts as well. So I'm going to show you what that is. So the first thing to do is your child's choking. Now, I know from experience how frightening this can be. I've had my 2-year-old do this to me twice already. Last year was the latest one when I was changing her nappy, and I had her legs up high and I'm changing a big pooey nappy, and I hear this sound of a full obstruction. I look down and she's got her hair clip sitting in the back of her throat. So she's lying there, mouth wide open. She's absolutely petrified. She's bright red. She's got tears streaming down her eyes, and she's trying to get this thing out. Now, as a mum, I think mums more than dads, we love to pick at our children. So if we've got something sticking out of their ear or their nose, we love to pick it out. Please avoid that if your child is choking. You run the risk of pushing it down further, and you also run the risk of them biting off the tip of your finger. So avoid that. So instead, exactly what I did with my little girl, I popped her over my lap, which is a nice firm surface, or you could use your arm as that firm surface. So head down, bottom up, got the heel of my hand between her shoulder blades and gave her a sharp back slap on the back. Now hopefully one will work, but sometimes you'll need more. So if it hasn't worked, I want you to repeat that action up to 5 times if needed. Now on that day, I think she cleared it on about number 2 or 3, but I always say to people, I think I gave her all 5, because in my panic, I was just like, bang, 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 I want this thing out. So she copped an extra couple, but no harm done for her. Now, how will you know if your back slaps have worked? Your child will show signs of breathing. So coughing, crying, talking to you, but most of the time it'll just be crying because you've just gave them a big slap across the back and they're not very happy with you, all right? So the good news is if they're screaming in your face, they have got a clear airway, all right? So up to 5 back slaps on the back. If for some reason these do not work, and it's very uncommon for them not to work, but if they don't, I want to make sure you have called the ambulance now, because this is a really good obstruction and we need to make sure help is on its way. If it hasn't worked, after you've made sure the ambulance is called, you can try a different technique, which is called a chest thrust. This is going to be different if your baby is under 1 as opposed to a baby over the age of 1, a child over 1. Under 1, we're going to use 2 fingers on the centre of their chest and provide up to 5 sharp blows on the centre of their chest if needed. And then if that doesn't work, we'd go back to our back slaps again. So either on the arm or on the leg, providing those back slaps. And if they're very young, you might want to hold their jaw just to support that neck and head movement. So it's a repeated process, continuing until the ambulance gets there, 5 by 5, okay? Now if it's the child over the age of 1, what we're going to do here is again the same technique, the back slaps, up to 5 if needed, making sure we've called the ambulance if they haven't worked. And in the meantime, we'll try the chest thrusts, and that is, instead of 2 fingers now, the heel of the hand and pushing through that chest wall. Up to 5 times again and repeating that action. So it's very straightforward. I've got a slide there that shows you what to do in summary there. So most of you, or all of you, if you want a choking child, you want one that's effectively coughing, because the good news is you don't need to do much. If they don't have an effective cough, take action, back slaps followed by those chest thrusts and calling 000 and continuing until the ambulance arrives. Now, in very unfortunate instances, there are a small number of children each year that do die from choking. But in my own experiences and those of my colleagues, majority of these occurrences of death related to choking happen when the parents are not around when the child chokes. So a child may have got into trouble while mum was out hanging the washing on the line for 10 or 15 minutes, put something in their mouth, come back in, and it's a long time in terms of an airway, that's a long time frame, and suddenly finds their child unconscious on the floor. That child would be indicated to have CPR done on them. A full obstruction, they're not breathing, they're now unconscious, they require CPR until the ambulance gets there. The good news is, if you're there when it happens, you'll usually do a great job in a matter of seconds of relieving the obstruction, which is great news, okay? Now, just a word of note of what things to avoid feeding your child to hopefully stop them from choking. Now, I don't want you to all go home and start feeding them pureed apple and pear for the rest of their lives, okay? We do need to challenge them with their eating. But things like hard bits of apple or carrot are not great for your child. Grate it instead, cook it through. The other fruits like grapes and strawberries are a great one just to inhale and block off that airway. So chop those down into smaller pieces. Things like popcorn, easy to inhale that popcorn and block off an airway. Things like nuts as well, in regard to whole nuts, that can easily obstruct an airway. And also the lollies, when they go to the parties and they've got the raspberry lollies and the snake lollies, children can't chew those things down very well, and they tend to end up in big pieces and blocking off their airways as well. And just a note on the sausages and things like that, they're great sizes for fitting down that nice open airway and blocking it off as well. So just keep an eye out for those foods. Food is more common for children to choke on than actually the toys. So it's really important you do supervise them while they are eating. Even things like the toast, fingers, they don't chew it down, it just sits in a ball, a gloggy, glaggy mess at the back of their throat, and that can block off their airway. So you just need to be there supervising them when they're eating and keeping an eye on them in terms of if anything happens, you're there to help them. Okay? So, has anyone any questions for me about that? No? Everyone's too shy anyway. Yes, no, we've got, yes.
If they're in a high chair
Yes.
and they have a full obstruction,
Yep.
do you have to...
Pull them out? Yes, so the question is,
Is that going to make it worse?
no. It won't go much further than where it's sitting right now. So yes, if they're in a high chair, unstrap them, grab them out, put them over your lap or your arm and go through the technique. So it is a pretty quick, instantaneously unstrap, throw off the table, and they're over your lap within seconds. Yeah. But the thing is, remain calm, have confidence in those skills, and if anyone wants to come up and have a go with me supervising, I'm happy for you to come up and have a practice. Other than that, if you've got any other questions, you can come up and have a chat to me. And if you want one of the magnets as well, come up and grab one of those, or go round to the stand and see Eleanor around the corner as well. Okay, is everyone happy with that? Yeah, okay, hopefully you've taken away one potentially life-saving skill from attending today. So thank you very much, and I'll look forward to speaking with some of you shortly. Thank you.